back to the podcast. It's dark, it's warm, I'm away from the rain. I've headed to Mexico. I'm going to go and see if I can chase some bonefish in the company of some good friends. Can't see what's going on just as yet, but if you know Ascension Bay near the Gulf of Mexico, that the road into the lodge, I did it 20 years ago now, I think it was, and you probably need some new teeth once you've got to the very end of it, but now you can get a boat along there, and the boat ride was fantastic. There were 4 of us in the boat, the other 4 guys were in the other boat, and we didn't speak. It was just one of those moments where you could enjoy the sun on your skin, think about things and reset. And it was really, really nice to be able to do that. I've been struggling a little bit. I lost my friend on Christmas Eve, and it's really had a big impact on me. And yeah, I'm having highs and lows, but that boat ride allowed me just to clear my mind of everything and look forward to what's to come. We had dinner last night. We haven't fished yet. It's 6:30 in the morning. I'm old enough to know better, but I still get excited about going fishing. So I'm going to have a cup of coffee. I'm going to talk you through some of what's going to be happening. We've got a lovely bunch of people here, and I'm really looking forward to spending time with them. They're just good people. What I've done with these trips, and some of them previously as well, is that we all met before we went, so everyone knew each other, and that makes the trip less apprehensive for everyone going along. So they know who they're with, they know who they're rooming with, they know who they're going to be fishing with, and it makes life really, really easy. But it's been a while since I caught bonefish. I can't remember when it was. So I'm really looking forward to it. I've got some rods I've got a rod for tarpon, I've got a lighter 6-weight for bonefish. I was inspired by the Yvonne Chouinard book about pheasant tail, and Craig Matthews as well, and Malro, their book. And so for the first time in absolutely years that I tied a few pheasant tail bonefish flies, I'm going to try and fish those, see if I can catch a fish on one of those, the 4 flies that I tied. I got bored of it after a while, I have to be honest, and see how we get on. So yeah, I'm really excited. John's got up now, so I'm not alone. I'm going to, like I say, grab a cup of coffee and start the day before we hit the flats. Breakfast was pancakes and scrambled egg. We've left the lodge and weaved our way through mangroves and then headed out into the area where we're going to be trying to look for some fish. I'm fishing with Liz today, and Liz and I have been chatting, but things have got more serious now because we're in the spot and we're on a flat now. Water's probably foot or so deep. We've seen some nervous water early on. Liz is going to have her first shot at bonefish. I've just moved across. Henry, our guide, is in the poling position, so now, yeah, we're ready to go. Liz is actually making her first cast out now towards fish, so the excitement levels are pretty high. We're going to see what happens. The call went up 11 o'clock, 45 feet. Liz made the cast beautifully. Unfortunately, this time no dice. We've seen odd signs of nervous water as well, and just waiting for that moment. You can feel a quiet determination in all corners at the moment, and Liz doing everything on the money at the moment. Just want to find that biter. Liz made her shots. She caught her bonefish. It's lovely to sit there and watch those moments unfold and watch somebody do so incredibly well and mark a special moment, and those things are really cool. And it's a little tip as well, when we got in the boat in the morning, that we said, I got in there and said, look, we just want to have fun. We'd like to catch a few bonefish. Liz never caught one. And that makes the guide know exactly what the vibe is of the day, what the people are about, and also what they would like to do. And it's much easier for them to tailor the day if they have a clear understanding instead of trying to work out what they think you want to do. So that's my little tip for that. And, I see some stuff out there, and the guys, it's funny, we're in the back of nowhere, and I was seeing the guys film me play some fish. And the last time I came here, I think must have been nearly 20 years ago. There was obviously no real social media in that sense. They were filming. He said, I just like filming those sorts of things. And that's the nice thing. And I'm going to have a look at their socials and those sorts of things. And it struck me that he wasn't showing off about what a fabulous guide he was. And it reminded me of a quote from Lefty Cray about a good guide or a good instructor shares knowledge. They don't show their knowledge or how good they are. And I think that's a really salient thing that lasted through my guiding career as well. It was Carl Humphreys who told me that, and I've always thought about that. But one of the other things as well, when you come back at the end of the day, is hearing the stories, and it's such a nice group of people. So I've done these things in the past, and you sort of see people coming back from the flats boat, and you try and judge their body language. But what I've done with these trips, both here and in Italy, is get everyone to meet each other so that they knew each other beforehand. So there's no awkwardness. Everyone gets on incredibly well, and everyone's relaxed. And it is, a holiday, and it's supposed to be fun. So that's how we do it. But everyone came back, we had stories, and I think just about everybody is no longer a stranger to the ways of bonefish, which is really cool to hear. There's some amazing stories that I might share further down the line as well. But the fun has been, for me, as I often say on here, really is I sat in the boat and supported Liz when she was fishing. Then sometimes I'd drop out, walk on the flat my own, and see if I could find fish, and caught a few fish. I fished a 6-weight, which was great fun, and tried, I can't remember if I've said this earlier in the piece, but I tied 4 flies for the first time in ages, and they were the pheasant tail bonefish patterns, and that's all I used. And the guide could see me catching fish and was asking me what it was, and he said, it's a trout fly, which I guess it's trout fly materials. And I was trying to explain what pheasant tail was, because, of course, on saltwater flats, pheasant tail is something that they don't usually consider, but they work, that's for sure. So it was a size 10 jig hook and just some B-chain eyes and pheasant tail and some silver wire. That was it. And it worked, and it caught me a few fish. The fish are extraordinary. They are fabulously strong, fabulously fast. And like I keep saying, spotting them is something that I really thoroughly enjoy. So, yeah, it's been fun so far. This is a relatively short trip for me. Said I'm heading back to the UK pretty quickly. So I've got today and I've got tomorrow. So I'm going to enjoy them as much as I possibly can. We had mole chicken for dinner last night that was amazing, and Chris bought some Hungarian hooch, as I called it, that came from his village. Everyone in the village makes it, and we had that, and we shared stories, we laughed loud, and that's part of the fun as well. It does transcend the fishing at many times, but yeah, it'll be cool. I'd love to see, if there's a chance, some of the guys saw some tailing bonefish. That to me, when you see the glint of the sun on a tail as they're grubbing around for shrimps and crabs, is absolutely magical. It's almost ethereal, and it's almost angel-like when you see those fins glinting in the sun. So that might be something today that we might get lucky with. It feels close. They said there's potential for a little bit of rain today, maybe, but we'll see how we get on with that. We've got rain slickers, so we're absolutely fine. I've had my first coffee of the morning. I'm about to have another one. And then we're going to assemble the rods. The second day is always easy. The first one's sort of, like I say, it's a bit sensory overload. And I think just about bar Steve, actually, no one else had done any saltwater fishing, so I guess it must have been sensory overload just to try and figure out what was going on, get your gear together, and then get it down to the boat. And then I think you do go into a sort of a nice rhythm with things when you're understanding what you're doing, the trip out to the flats, and working it out from there. And once you're into that, then I think you also fish a little bit more confidently and comfortably, because you know what's to expect, and they're not Herculean great casts. Most of the things were 40 feet, 50 feet tops, the casts, so they're not big long casts. They're not something to be frightened of. And I know for many years that I'd read a bonefish book, I can't remember, in the 80s or 90s, I can't remember what it was now, and I thought it was 100-foot cast into the wind, and I thought, geez, I'm not going to be able to do that. But guides get you into that right position. The wind's usually on your side or behind you, if there is any around, and getting a shot off isn't as difficult as it might seem. So, and I've got this theory as well that they always say shoot it off in 2, and I reckon that's because if they said 3, that might make 4 false casts or 5 false casts. So that's my theory there. But 2 is definitely the best option, particularly if fish are shooting through as well. That's the way you're going to be able to cover them the best. But made me smile thinking about that. It dawned on me that I'm talking about flats as if you know exactly what I'm talking about. You might be listening to this having never done this, or may not even be considering bone fishing. So the idea is that where we're staying is that we meet the guides in the morning, then get in the boat and travel out. It's about a 30-minute trip. It might be 20 minutes, something like that, out to the flats. And what a flat is shin deep, possibly a little bit ankle deep sometimes as well. And what we're doing is searching for fish. We're walking along. Sometimes, as I've said earlier, sometimes I'm walking on my own. Sometimes I might have a guide with me. Liz may be doing likewise as well, but sometimes she's fish from the boat as well. And of course, the advantage of fishing from a boat is that you're higher up, so spotting fish is easier. And the guides actually use a great long pole and stand up. They've got a platform at the back of the boat that they'll stand on, so it's even better for spotting as well. But for me, I suppose it's the trout fisherman in me that I really enjoy walking, trying to spot those fish, either travelling through, and I use the word nervous water. And what that is it may be a pod or a shoal of fish moving through, and where their tails are working side to side in the shallow water, it sort of disturbs it a little bit, and the term's called nervous water. So we're looking for signs there. The flat that we've been walking on today, it'd been cloudy, and there'd been some rain as well, and we'd got a little bit wet. I didn't take the rain jacket. I'd listened to some weather forecasts that turned out to be incorrect, so I got absolutely soaked. But of course, the lovely thing about the warm weather is that you warm up pretty quickly and you dry off pretty quickly as well. But we'd walked along a flat, round the edge of the flat, so there's mangroves sort of frame the flat, and we're just looking for any signs and anything that doesn't look right. And the guides, of course, have got much better eyesight than I have. But every now and again, I pride myself that I see something, fire off a shot, and sometimes it might even be right as well. But it's fun just slowly walking. You're thinking about how you're wading. It's a good tip for our trout angling as well, and perhaps even salmon as well, not making too much disturbance. These fish are in very shallow water. The size of them here in Mexico, they're sort of more in the 1 to 3 to 4 pound range. But when they're in very shallow water, they're extremely spooky, extremely nervous. We've seen the odd shark moving around as well. But what we're trying to do is look for those signs of the fish. The ultimate for me, as I've said earlier, is probably the tailing fish, and seeing a fish feeding, rooting some stuff out, and making a cast and getting it to eat. They're getting accustomed to my pheasant tail fly, and they're seeing that it works as well. I'll probably leave some with the guys afterwards to see if they'll continue to work for them. But that's been fun to see from that point of view, and looking for any signs of fish as we walk along the flats. And today has been a great example of that being able to cover fish
and get them to take as well. And there is nothing like that take. And I often say on these things with bonefish, I've said it many times before, and with the guys on the trip as well, don't strike, strip strike, and getting used to that. And I've been really proud that I've not trout set on anything so far. That's probably going to come and kick me in the backside pretty quickly, but they're the things that I start to think about. But making these casts, accuracy, firing it off relatively quickly. I'm usually going in the 2, but I allow myself 3 if I need it, just particularly if I want to be accurate as well. I found that's been really, really useful. But really, really enjoyed this session. It's been a fascinating one, just walking, catching some fish as well. And that's been really, really enjoyable. I think it is, in me as an angler, I love stalking fish, and I think that's probably why this appeals to me so much. This afternoon we mixed things up a little bit, and we stayed in the boat, and the guys took us to a flat that was a little bit deeper, but they said there was the chance of permit and possibly tarpon as well. They were dead right. We shot at them. We made good casts at them. I had permit do what permit do, and followed me. I had 3 fish different times come in and follow the flight all the way to the boat and peel off at the last moment. It's exciting, nerve-jangling moments, but also when you see them peel away is one of those things, sadly. It's how it goes with permit. I was using an old fly, and one of the guys said, "This one?" So I said, "Yeah, let's go for it." And I said to him, he's a young lad, and I said, "Oh man, I think this fly's probably older than you are. That it's an old Merkin pattern that I've had for a long, long time now, but I thought it was going to work." Got really, really close, but didn't. We had also, and this is the nice thing, so we were taking it in turns being at the front of the boat, and I had a tarpon rod set up and a permit rod set up, and I shot at tarpon as well, and we saw those again, got really, really close to them, but they just didn't want to bite. That was the unfortunate thing about it, that it was really, really close, but not close enough. But seeing these fish has been really, really thrilling, and the chance to throw at them as well has been really, really good fun. We also had a session in some mangroves. That was some really super tight casting. So the boat was tight in to the mangroves, and it was probably, the channel probably was 20, 30 foot wide, if that, relatively deep. It was really interesting because they started slapping the pole from the boat in the water, and I asked the guys, "Why are you doing that?" And they said, "Well, the noise does attract the tarpon." And we saw a few rise. They were, the trout angler in me calls them oncers, and they came up just the once, and then I tried to cover them. And it was, for me as a casting geek as well, it was kind of interesting because I had to throw the back cast really high over the back of the top of the mangroves, but deliver it low. So managing to actually land it so it didn't look as though I'd thrown a bag of, or a bowling ball in the spot was interesting, challenging, stimulating to be able to do that. And that part of it was really, really good fun. I found by just pulling the line a little bit, I could settle things a bit and make it slightly less aggressive. Didn't get a fish to eat though. I got one to follow again into the boat, and it's felt to me, and the bonefish have been really good to me, but it's felt as though the other fish are sort of close but not hard on it. That's the way it feels to me. I'm told that there's going to be some wind tomorrow, and I wonder with that as well, there's been some low pressure. I don't know how that affects, if the barometric pressure does affect the fishing on the flats or not, but it sort of kind of feels that way a little bit to me, that they're sort of there having a look round, but they're not super keen. That would be my, of course that's me anthropomorphizing, it's probably my fault and I've done something wrong, but that's how it feels to me, that the bite hasn't been a hard one from the other species that we looked at. But it's been enjoyable. I love being tested with my fishing. It's lovely being on a big open flat with no obstacles and just me against the fish, but I also love how you get tested by things and how the fishing makes you think a little bit, and I think it makes you a better angler by doing that. I'm always looking to try and improve in any way that I possibly can. It's been really fun doing that. It was tiring as well because it was super hot, firing off shots really, really quickly with the 12 weight as well. So that was kind of fun from that point of view. But yeah, really, really enjoyable. Another good day. Dinner is good fun as well. And like I said before, everyone's getting on like a house on fire. It's been such good fun. We've laughed a lot, and that's really, really important on these trips. So this is my last day. I'm only out here for 3 days. John's up already. I call us the breakfast club because we're up bright and early. I just like enjoying and savouring every moment of the trip that I possibly can, and that's, I think, has been really, really good fun. As I said, I think I said in the previous segment that weather was due to change a little bit, and the winds got a little bit bumpy. They're talking about high 20s, 30-mile-an-hour winds. It means that the boats can't cross the channel to the flats, and the guys have said that we're going to be fishing the lagoon. Now, lagoon, I thought, well, that'll be fun. We'll be casting in deeper water against mangroves for snook and tarpon and perhaps anything else that's knocking around, jacks and those sorts of things. And it isn't the case. That the lagoon is really another flat that's a little bit nearer. Absolutely huge one. Very, very shallow, spooky. Wind was really, really nasty. And of course, the first fish we saw were tailing permit, and it was a long cast and it was pretty much into the wind. It's your worst nightmare to cover them quickly while they were there. I managed to get the third shot off perfectly and thought I was in the game again, and of course permit did what they often do to me and shimmied off and out of the flat, so I didn't see them again. But I think wind was and has been a challenge here. I've been fishing an 8-weight with a heavyish permit fly on and trying to think about how I get myself into position. We walked around this massive flat looking for fish, but it was very, very quiet. So I don't know if that has been a function of the conditions, that the fish just didn't want to play in this rippled water. And of course, it's a little bit cloudy. Water's rippled because of the wind. Spotting the fish isn't as easy. We've seen some, but again, they don't seem as though they're players in that way, that they really want to bite hard. So I don't know if that does affect things in quite the same way. But one of the things I wanted to do as well was talk about one of my favourite underdog fish, and I do on the podcast from time to time, the snook. And John had an amazing snook of, I think it was 10-12 pounds yesterday, which I think for the Super Slam, if you're into those sorts of things, that's the final part of it. But that's a really special fish, and I just love them. They're kind of, if you haven't seen them, they're worth having a look at. They're kind of sort of like Zandery, really, I guess would be the nearest description I could think of for them, and really, really like them. As I said, they're a fun fish, and yeah, I'd love to try and catch one if I possibly could. We headed to the edge of a flat, basically, again, deeper water, fishing to sighted fish. I just couldn't see them. The water was probably 3 foot deep, I would say. Worked on the edge of some mangroves. Liz and I take it in turns. Liz caught a couple of bonefish. I hooked something rather nice that took me the other side of the boat and then came off. We ate lunch in the shelter from the wind. Saw a small crocodile as well. A little bit smaller than Paco, the one that we saw when we loaded our stuff into the boats to take us. That croc was, I would say, was no more than 4 or 5 feet away from us, and it did feel like it was playing What's the Time, Mr. Wolf, and if you get a little bit too close, then yeah, you may pay for it. But it may also be that he's used to people just giving him some food and stuff, so I didn't want to find out. But yeah, the croc was a small one. He slid off and went from there. And then the afternoon, again, we hit another part of the lagoon area. And again, the flat, I think probably my guess is that the tide had gone out a little bit. I guess these tide changes aren't dramatic, but it had gone out a little bit. And I'd fired some shots. Again, the water was really rippled, and I didn't really get a chance to see how the fish reacted, but it wasn't positively, that's for sure. Saw some sharks on the flat as well, some blacktip sharks that were prowling around. I don't know if that made the bonefish even more cautious than normal, but I think the shots were okay. I was fishing a 6-weight with my little pheasant tail on, and longer leader as well. I thought, well, the shallower water and the spookiness of the fish in the morning, so I lengthened that up a little bit, but thought I did everything okay, but didn't play out the way that we hoped. And I had a couple of shots at some fish, but they weren't really settled. That would again be probably my description of it. But we continued to walk around the flat, and the wind just blew and blew and blew, and we found a little shaded area. There's a small island on the flat of mangroves, and on the shaded side of it we just waited, and there we were out of the wind just a little bit. And it's funny, I lost my friend Perry over Christmas, and I looked up and said, Bud, I could do with a little bit of luck right now. And probably half an hour later we spotted some fish coming in. Made the cast, and much easier to cover the fish. They seem more relaxed in that non-ruffled water as well, and I caught some. Then I caught some more, and then I caught some more, and probably for the next hour and 10, it wasn't a great deal more than that, I had 10 bonefish that we landed, all between 1 and 3 pounds, I would say, and I lost one too, and it was amazing. Now, I'm not a believer in these sorts of things, but it was lovely if my friend was looking down saying, there we go. And as we left the flat at the end of the day, it was still a bit cloudy, but there was one tiny little break in the clouds, and you could see the sun through that little break. And I just looked up and said, thanks, bud, that was perfect. And it was one of those wonderful ways to finish a trip. And I'm really happy. Didn't get the shots, I got the shots at permit and tarpon, but I just couldn't get them to bite. But I'm told there's some better weather coming through, and I think if that, we've only had 1 day of wind, so that's absolutely fine, but it just has that feel that if the weather settles, the fish are going to come right on. That's my hope for the guys who are remaining. They're only halfway through their trip, so as I said, I'm heading back now, but it's been one of those wonderful trips, and bonefish are a phenomenal adversary, and I've enjoyed trying to do my little part in it and enjoyed every single little second of it as well. Alex at Aardvark McLeod looked after us so fabulously well as well, with bookings and everything along those sorts of lines, and made it seamless. Came along, we had a gathering where we all cast some rods and, like I say, got to know each other, and he explained for the people who hadn't done it before what to expect, what the lodge was like, all of those sorts of things that made it so much easier. So thank you, Al, very much indeed for that. I think friendships have been formed as a result of that, and that's really important to me. I love connecting people together and new friendships being formed, and hopefully they'll go on and fish together. But it's just been nice in a wet, dank, miserable start of the year to get some sun on my face, and it has been fantastic fun. I've loved every single second of it. It's a long journey home. I'm probably spending more time travelling than I'm actually fishing, but do you know what? It's been worth it. I wouldn't change it for anything. Thank you so much for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Fly Culture podcast, brought to you in association with the Voice of Game Angling, Trout and Salmon, where Pete is the editor.